Hi everyone, in these next few videos I'm going to address an issue that you may have already experienced, and if you haven't, you certainly will. And that is when you're just playing normal bow strokes and you get these little bounces in the bow and you're wondering, what's causing that? So I'm going to break this, into little bits and talk about what I think are the root causes and how to eliminate them. Okay, so just so you know, first of all, the bow is engineered to bounce and to bounce easily. Okay, the stick is flexible, the hair is flexible, and the hair is pulled really tight. So it's a springy object, and you don't have to drop it from very far to watch it bounce. Okay, so back in the late 1700s, when they were modernizing the construction of the bow, one goal was for it to be more powerful so that players could project and play louder, because we had this, rise in soloistic playing, concertos, and virtuosic, performance. Also, a lot of the techniques that composers started incorporating into the music were off-the-string techniques, like ricochet, or sautille, or spiccato. Okay, so they wanted to construct the bow so that would do that really easily. So really the only way to prevent the bow from being in a bouncy pattern is to have consistent weight. Just weight, dead weight that's always on the bow, so the bow just can't bounce, and if you do this and apply pressure, it will stop bouncing. So that goal is, like I said, consistent, necessary pressure to keep the bow from bouncing. So here are the situations and here are the mistakes that I think people make that allow the bow to get in this, little bouncy pattern as they draw the bow. It usually happens on the down bow. Okay, so problem number one is when you start the bow stroke, the bow has to be placed on the string. It has to be still. Okay, if you drop it, then it will start a bouncing pattern. So I think people don't realize that they're dropping. It doesn't feel like they're dropping the bow, but if you start your bow and the bow is not placed on the string, okay, then just the slightest bit of drop will start a bounce. That can even happen when playing bow strokes and lifting at the frog. So here's another mistake. Sometimes beginners don't realize it, but they're lifting their bow off of the string at the frog. So okay, and just again, that little bit of drop will create a bounce. All right, so here's another issue, is playing too close to the fingerboard. Because when you play too close to the fingerboard, and this is so common, okay, when you play close to the fingerboard, you can't use much weight at all. If you apply bow weight, pressure, whether it's from your nice, heavy, relaxed arm or pronation with the index finger, this is the sound. Okay, my bow's not bouncing, but that sounds awful. So you have to be at least here in the middle so that you can apply the necessary weight to prevent the bow from bouncing, and it will sound good. Okay, so that's consistent pressure, and I'm able to do it because my bow is at a sounding point where it will withstand that pressure. Now, you may not have learned yet about sounding points. You'll be getting there, okay? But stay away from bowing near the fingerboard. All right, another issue is that the bow will bounce more easily with more surface area where the hair is really flat on the string. So if you haven't watched the bow hold videos, watch those. If you haven't watched the bow tilt video, watch that. But when we play, our bow is tilted. This reduces that flat, wide hair surface, so it won't bounce as easily this way. So with the flat hair, it tends to skip a little bit. And also, I'm playing closer to the fingerboard to illustrate, because it does bounce so easily down there. So if I tilt my bow, sometimes that alone will get rid of the bounce. But then, of course, combined with nice, good, healthy bow weight at a healthy sounding point, you probably won't, that'll probably get rid of the bounces, just that. Okay, and then, let's see, lastly, sometimes I've noticed that people get in the habit of accelerating bow speed when they change to the down bow. Okay, so they're going up, and then there's a little bit of an acceleration, kind of a whip around the corner, going from up to down. And that little whip, accelerated whip around, pulls the bow a little faster. It pulls the kind of the contact of the hair to the strings, kind of pulls it away from the string, and then it plops back down and starts bouncing. So sometimes I see this. So make sure you're not doing it. So when you, out of habit. I'm not doing a great job, but I'll have to really exaggerate. Okay, so kind of that whipping around will kind of plop the bow back, and then it'll start bouncing. All right, so these the reasons I just, or the causes that I just outlined and explained have to do really with bow physics. All right, so the next video I'm going to deal with other things slightly more sinister. All right, so now on to other causes. And then I will have to invoke the T word, tension, the wrecking ball of all things. So I think that the cause that flies farthest under the radar is the thumb. Because you may, for all the world, feel like you are relaxed, and right? So shoulder tension can be a counterforce to pressure, right? So we want pressure, and we want consistent pressure. So anything that is a counterforce to that is pushing back, will cause the bow to leave the string, and then we can get the bounces. So if you're playing and your shoulder gets a little tight, then it raises up your arm level, and then next thing you know your bow is dropping because your arm level is not settled. It's just my shoulder is too tight. It's lifting my arm up. So, drop those muscles in the back. Just let them go. Let your shoulder drop way down in the socket. Okay? That's how you let the pressure. That's how you let that weight in. All right. So some of you may be thinking, but I do that. My shoulder is relaxed. All right, well, let's go to the fingers. All right, we'll do thumb last. Fingers. If the fingers are stiff, then when you place the bow will absorb the shock and will bounce. If the fingers are relaxed and they give and they bend on impact, then the fingers absorb the shock and the bow won't bounce. So do some retakes. Practice lifting your bow, placing your bow. Place, relax, go. Place, relax, go. Okay, and then just try some. Place with really stiff fingers. Okay, Now, probably the finger that is the guiltiest is the pinky. People tend to have a straight pinky. That pinky pushes on the end of the bow, and then the tip becomes lighter, and it totally reduces that weight, and it makes the bow bounce too. So you may even be thinking, hey, my fingers are relaxed, but your pinky is straight, and you don't know it. It doesn't feel like it is, but it is. It's locked and it's straight. It would be so difficult for me to prevent bow bounces if my pinky stayed straight. Place, relax, bend. Okay, so shoulder tension, flexible fingers to absorb placement of the bow, and last is the thumb. And this, I think, is, like I said, this is the one we really don't think about because we don't feel tension very easily here. It's not painful. You know, like you'll feel shoulder tension after a while because your shoulder gets sore, but you know, you can just barely press up and you don't even know it. It doesn't feel, this muscle doesn't get tired, it doesn't hurt. So I think even for those who have a pretty relaxed bow hold, if your thumb is bent and stays bent, I think that the propensity to push slightly is unavoidable and that it's going to be a problem. So again, in my bow hold videos, I talk about a neutral thumb. The thumb has to stay neutral so it can also help absorb bouncy shock of the bow, but also so that it precludes the pushing up of this muscle here. So check your thumb. Make sure your thumb is relaxed and neutral, not rigidly in a bent position, okay? And because the second this starts pushing up, these will start pushing down, all right? Then now it's really easy to bounce too. And you don't even have to drop the bow. So right in the middle here, I am bouncing so easily, and all I'm doing is pushing up with my thumb. So stop and say, this is what I say to myself. And I'll tell you when I say this. Dead thumb. I just say dead thumb. And I just know there is zero tension at all in this muscle. And this happens like if I'm a little nervous. So if in a performance situation where I am feeling adrenaline, that's a whole nother topic, okay, is performance anxiety and tension that comes from nervousness. But when I feel that, and it feels, you know, it's a tremor, and what happens is uncontrollably, I'm gripping a little tighter. Uncontrollably, my thumb is doing this. When I hear that, when I feel that, that's what I say. I say dead thumb, dead thumb, dead thumb. And then I just try to make my arm as weighty as possible. Dead thumb, dead thumb. And that's what works the best, because it doesn't work to say, hey, don't be nervous. This isn't a big deal. That doesn't work. But dead thumb, that seems to work the best. At least that's my experience. Low, dead thumb, bendy fingers. And then all those other things in the first video, I don't think you're going to have any bounces. I think your sound will be glorious.